Ladies and gentlemen, gather round as we take a stroll down memory lane to revisit the grand old days of Thatcherism. It's a bit like looking at your old high school yearbook. You remember the good times, but also the questionable fashion choices. Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady herself. Oh, how we laughed when she swept into power, promising to save the country from economic woes. Thatcherism, they said, would be our knight in shining armor, rescuing us from the clutches of economic despair. And, to be fair, it did save us from the monotony of consistent policies. Trickle-down economics, the cornerstone of Thatcherism. The notion that, if you feed the fat cats enough, eventually, the scraps will fall to the rest of us. It's like trying to catch a raindrop in a desert. You'll need a pretty big bucket and a lot of patience. Privatization, another darling of Thatcherism. Let's sell everything, they cried. British Rail, public utilities, and even your Aunt Mabel's prized garden gnome collection were up for grabs. And the result? Well, we now have world-class train service, if you happen to be in a parallel universe where that's true. But, let's give credit where it's due. In some cases, privatization did bring improvements. For example, now you can pay a premium for a bottle of water at the train station without having to wait in line at public drinking fountain. And those trade unions. Thatcherism took them on with the subtlety of bulldozer in a chine shop. She fought tooth and nail to curb their power, making it as clear as a foghorn that she wasn't their biggest fan. Though, I suppose, when your slogan is, "The workers united will never be defeated," you're basically daring her not to challenge you. But times have changed, my friends. Thatcherism, like your old Walkman, is a relic of the past. It's no longer the shiny new gadget we thought it was. Income inequality is a chasm wider than the English Channel, and the rich have more yachts than you have socks. The Tory government, bless their hearts, is looking a bit tired, like a marathon runner who's been going for decades. Let's not forget, my dear congregation, how utterly knackered the Thatcherite government became after our Iron Lady hung up her handbag. It was like watching a ship with no captain, lost at sea, and heading straight for an iceberg named the 90s. The Tories in the 90s were like a band that had lost its lead singer, trying desperately to find a replacement, but all they got were off-key karaoke enthusiasts. They shuffled through leaders like a deck of cards at poker night, hoping to find a winning hand, but ending up with a bunch of jokers. We had John Major, the man who looked perpetual surprised, as if he stumbled into 10 Downing Street while searching for the nearest pub. Bless his heart, he tried to hold the fort, but the party was more divided than family during a Monopoly game. And let's not forget about the Back to Basics campaign. Oh, it was like a Monty Python skit in real life. They preached family values while MPs were caught with their pants down, in more ways than one. It was as if they were trying to make us forget about Thatcherism's legacy with a good old scandal or two. There was that infamous cones hotline. Yes, you heard it right, a hotline for reporting traffic cone sightings. It was as if they believed that the secret to winning elections lay in the efficient management of roadwork paraphernalia. Imagine the urgency in those calls. Hello, is this the cones hotline? There's a particular saucy traffic cone on the M25, and it's real disrupting my commute. But wait, it gets even better. There was the bastards incident. John Major, in a moment of unfiltered frustration, famously referred to some of his own conservative colleagues as bastards. Now, I don't know about you, but it's not often you see a prime minister publicly insulting members of his own party. It was a bit like a Shakespearean drama, but with more tea and fewer tights. Then there was the curious case of the Maastricht Treaty. The Conservatives were so divided over Europe that it made Brexit look like a walk in the park. Major was caught in a never-ending game of political whack-a-mole, trying to quell rebellions within his own party while dealing with opposition from without. It was a political acrobatics show, and Major was the guy on the tightrope without a net. And let's not forget the ERM crisis, where the pound was unceremoniously ejected from the European exchange rate mechanism. It was like a mad magic trick, where the currency disappeared before our very eyes. Major's government had promised stability, but the markets had other plans, and we were left with financial chaos. But perhaps the crown jewel of gaffes was the cash for questions affair, and various allegations of misconduct gave the impression that the Tories were more interested in personal gain than public service. It was like a soap opera, where the characters were supposed to running the country. Meanwhile, Tony Blair was over there, grinning like the Cheshire Cat, waiting to pounce. New Labour swooped in, promising to the fresh face of politics. They were like the cool kids, who showed up to the party, while the Tories were still arguing over whose turn it was to bring the snacks. Blair rode in on a wave of charisma, with his cool Britannia and all. The Tories tried to keep up, but it was like watching your granddad try to breakdance at family reunion. Little wonder that by the time Tony Blair and New Labour came along, the public was ready for fresh start, a government that could tie its shoelaces without tripping over its own feet. Ah, yes, Tony Blair. He couldn't have been happier and more giddy if he'd won the lotto and found a golden ticket to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. While the Conservative Party under John Major was busy with their gaffes and infighting, Blair seized the opportunity to modernize the Labour Party and shift it towards the moderate left. It was as if Blair had found the secret sauce to political success. He had the charisma of rock star, the charm of talk show host, and the political instincts of chess grandmaster. Blair was like the cool, suave uncle who showed up to the family reunion with a new sports car and a shiny new attitude. Under his leadership, Labour underwent a transformation. They shed their old-school socialist image and embraced a more centrist, business-friend approach. Blair's New Labour was all about modernization, pragmatism, and winning elections. It was like watching a makeover show for political party, complete with a snazzy new wardrobe and a fresh haircut. And while the Tories were stuck in the past, bickering over cones and calling each other bastards, Blair was out there shaking hands, kissing babies, and wooing voters like a pro. He had the Midas touch, turning the Labour Party into a formidable political force. Blair's grin never seemed to fade, and why should it? He had successfully navigated the turbulent waters of British politics, leaving the Tories in his wake. The contrast between the exhausted Conservatives and the rejuvenated New Labour couldn't have been more stark. So, as Blair looked out at the political landscape, he must have felt like he was on cloud nine. While the Tories were stuck in a comedy of errors, he was leading a party that had found its groove and was ready to take on the world. And when the election came, it was a landslide. The Tories were defeated so sound, it was as if the British public had collectively decided they'd had enough of the Conservative chaos and wanted a taste of a Blair buffet. So, let's raise a glass to the memory of Thatcherism, the economic ideology that had its moments, and its moments of madness. As we toast to its past, let's also look to the future and hope for policies that balance progress, fairness, and a good dose of common sense. After all, we're in the 21st century now, and it's about time we got rid of those 80s shoulder pads and started dressing for the occasion. Cheers.